Dun 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 dun. Welcome back. Week 2 NFL Power Rankings after a really fun, entertaining Week 1. I'm really excited to get into this. A fun Week 1, and I really feel like I was adequately placed with most of my rankings. I did a pretty good job in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think though. This is part of what I like to do. I like to have you guys interact. I love to see your thoughts and opinions, no matter which team you're a fan of. Obviously, I'm a Bears fan. You're going to see a little bit of that shine through a little bit, but I try to keep it pretty unbiased except against one singular team. But I feel like I'm actually pretty accurately reflecting how that team is this year. I think people are going to see they're pretty exposed. But for those who are new to the channel, in my rankings, I will always do 14 teams at the top of the rankings because there's 7 from the AFC, 7 from the NFC that will go to the playoffs. So I'm always going to have 7 AFC, 7 NFC in that, even if there's 8 seed, 9 seed, 10 seed from the AFC that probably deserve to be above the 7 seed in the NFC. It will always be the top 14 from 7 from each conference. So I appreciate you tuning in. If you guys don't mind liking, subscribing, commenting, it helps with the algorithm thingy, and it helps me to continue to do this. So I really appreciate you tuning in, and please hit that like button. I always start off my power ranking with a little bit of a spoiler, the biggest riser and the farthest faller of the week. With the way the Buccaneers came out and played really smooth and comfortable, they looked really clean, kind of taken off where they left off last year. With Baker Mayfield looking really clean, I had them jump out of the playoff rankings into the 7th seed in the NFC, so they will be on my playoff picture side. And then for the Bengals, I realize they always start this way. They seem to be a little bit slow and sluggish. They don't have it together. But with how competitive that AFC North is, I had to drop them out of the playoffs, and I dropped them pretty far down. Until they can prove otherwise that this was a fluke, I had to put them a little bit lower and show a little bit of where they probably belong. So number 32, we're going to start off with the Panthers, and there's not a lot you can say except, man, they don't look good. They not only did Bryce Young start the season with a year of experience under his belt with an interception on his very first throw, they've lost Pro Bowl defensive tackle Derek Brown now, possibly season-ending meniscus tear. It doesn't look good for the Panthers. I don't see any way to justify them being anywhere but number 32 at this point. Number 31, I have to move the Giants down. One big question this offseason was whether the Giants should draft a quarterback or get Daniel Jones help as he comes back from his injury. The answer looks pretty obvious that the Giants made the wrong decision. Daniel Jones just has no answer on how to play competent quarterback under pressure. He threw 2 interceptions again in this game, including another terrible pick 6. What the heck were you thinking? The outlook doesn't look good. Number 30, the Broncos actually didn't look terrible. They were only the 6th team to score 2 safeties in a game and still lose in NFL history. I had the Broncos as one of my upset candidates to watch for the last week, and for a good chunk of the game, most fans were questioning if they could pull it off. In the end, Bo Nix looked like a rookie. He was fine early and kept passing simple and behind the line of scrimmage, but as the Broncos got down, he had to dissect the downfield. It didn't go as smoothly. It's way too early to give an analysis on the Broncos long term, but the Broncos are a team I can see climbing the rankings once Nix gets some experience. All right, at number 29, the Patriots might seem like they're getting the shaft, getting slight after an upset they had over the Bengals, but was that more the Bengals than the Patriots, or can the defense carry the Patriots? With the Bengals' terrible offseason, I'm honestly not sure. The Patriots only got pressure on 6 of Joe Burrow's dropbacks, which makes me think the Patriots defense might not be good once the hypesters are making it sound like they are. Keon White did have 2.5 sacks as a highlight. The Patriots were able to recover 2 fumbles, so there's plenty to be excited about as Patriots fans. With the Seahawks traveling farther than any team this week to come to Foxborough, the Patriots have a real opportunity to show that 1 week wasn't a fluke. We're going to slightly raise the Patriots and hold firm here to see what they've got next week. At 28, the Commanders didn't look terrible. They also didn't look good. As far as rookie quarterbacks were, in Week 1, Jaden Daniels had the better outing of any of them. But that really isn't saying much. The Heisman Trophy winners showed flashes of being able to escape the pocket and keep plays alive, rushing for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. But just like other rookies, pushing the ball down the field was an issue. He only attempted 4 passes of air yards of 10 yards or more and only completed 1. The offense wasn't the main issue, with the secondary looking shaky at best. Dan Quinn's defense had me puzzled with what he was trying to pull off, but it might just need to be more than 1 week to get established. If the Commanders are going to have success in 2024, it's going to take more than a rookie quarterback getting up to speed. The defense is going to need to do their part. Giving up 37 points just isn't going to cut it. Number 27 sticks with the Cardinals this week. I'm not down on the Cardinals, but there's no reason to raise them up at this point after blowing a lead to the Bills and the offense sputtering out at the end of the game. Where was Marvin Harrison Jr. in this game? I expected the Cardinals defense to take another step forward this offseason, but the Cardinals pressured Josh Allen on only 20% of his dropbacks. That's the lowest pressure rate Josh Allen has faced in almost a year. And you just can't do that with a quarterback as good as Josh Allen. Arizona gets the honor of having the first kickoff return for a touchdown with the new kickoff rules, but that wasn't enough for me to push them in the rankings this week. 26 is another team that seemed like they were headed for a week one win early on, but as the Titans coaching staff joked, if they would have just punted the ball on every 1st and 10 their offense had, they might have just beaten the Bears. Will Levis looked like a rookie quarterback, unable to get going early on. The running game was able to get going with a strong defensive front on the other side. They were able to get up early on the Bears 17-0, but the Bears defense and special teams made adjustments. And once Levis was forced to push the ball down the field, all hell broke loose for the Titans offense. A strip sack, a brutal pick six that should have never been thrown, and a late interception sealed up a loss for the Titans. The Titans shouldn't have to face defenses that are as stacked as the Bears every week, but when they do, Will Levis needs to learn to tuck it and let the defense do their job if the Titans want any shot of competing in the division this year. 25, I had no option but to drop the Raiders a little in the rankings. The defense played okay, not quite up to where expected for a Raiders defense, but if the offense can't figure it out, it doesn't matter. The quarterback situation is bleak. Coaching might have been the main issue, though, with the Raiders. Questionable calls coming from Antonio Pierce. Late in the game, midway through the fourth quarter, the Raiders were only down 6. After a check down to Alexander Madison gained 6 yards, the Raiders were left with another 4th and 1. The Raiders already had failed on multiple 3rd or 4th down and 1 situations earlier in the game, and with enough time to let the defense go to work, Pierce elected to go for it and basically sealed the game and the loss. At the other end of the same game, the Chargers stayed at 24. The Chargers' win was anything but pretty, but nonetheless gave Jim Harbaugh his first win as the Charger new coach. Rookie Joe Alt showed flashes of being worthy of the Chargers' first-round pick, holding off Max Crosby the entire game, but the offense just couldn't get rolling. The Chargers' new approach of the ground-and-pound game paid off, and the defense ultimately got the win. I don't know if the Chargers' defense is good enough to rely on against opponents other than the Raiders, but for Week 1, it worked. At 23, the Saints absolutely laid a shellacking on the Carolina Panthers. But it's the Carolina Panthers. I'd love to raise the Saints higher this week, but the Panthers are your opponent. It really doesn't make sense, and it makes you question how good the Saints really were or how bad the Panthers are. Chase Young and the Saints secondary looked phenomenal, though. Combined with the resurgence of Derek Carr and the offense that looked like it wants to be a force this year, the Saints scored 47 points, the most in franchise ever scored in a season opener. Again, against the Panthers. For now, the Saints will stay at the bottom tier, but if they can repeat that performance, they'll be moving up quickly in the rankings. 22 has the Minnesota Vikings, and boy, could they be raising the rankings every week. They did just jump up 3 spots this week after Sam Darnold got to show off what he can do after getting another shot. Darnold looked clean, accurate, and in rhythm all throughout the game, starting the game with 12 straight completions. Adding Aaron Jones to the Vikings' backfield only straightened the Vikings' offense. Especially with a quarterback that has question marks like Darnold, the Vikings putting up 28 can only be seen as a positive with the tribulation they went through in the offseason. And to that, a formidable defense, and the Vikings could be jumping up more than 3 spots each week as they keep it up. All right, at 21, the Seahawks are a team that I'm tempted to put lower. But Ryan Grubb did make the necessary adjustments to pull off the win, so we'll hold them firm at 21 this week. The offensive line was shaky, and it didn't look any better traveling to New England. The Seahawks might be dropping rankings rather than climbing them. It'll be a test this week. If they lose to the Patriots, I'm going to have to drop them. Starting the season against the Broncos and Patriots should be an easy slate to jump up in the rankings, but if they can't beat the Patriots, they might have more concerns than confidence on this team. Did Geno Smith lose his mojo with Shane Waldron leaving? Was it just because of the offensive line? That offensive line is really a huge question mark. Can they make adjustments to the line to protect the pass and run game? A lot of questions left in Seattle. Number 20 has the Jaguars not moving up, and I thought I might be moving them up on the list, but the offense was non-existent in the second half. The offense looked like it could piece together a decent season with the weapons it has. If they can limit the mistakes, they'll be all right. The defense did their part and really looked solid against the Dolphins, but mistakes killed the Jaguars late in the game, and it's not clear if Lawrence has lost a step, if he's really the generational quarterback, if the line is decimated, or if the scheme just isn't right for him. Either way, the Jaguars don't seem like they're a threat just yet, but with the weapons they have, they could piece something together. All right, this is one of the more fun ones for me. Number 19 is, as the saying goes, is the team in the league with more excuses than Carter has liver pills. The Packers came into the season as the most overhyped team without warrant, and although they played an Eagles team that probably had their worst game in a year, which is saying a lot considering the end of last year, the Packers still found a way to be abysmal. Jordan Love continued to show why accuracy is the biggest reason his contract will be a bust, and Jair Alexander continued where he left off before injury, being one of the worst cover corners in the entire league. The Packers seem like a team that will continue to be exposed throughout the year, with their play call being the only shining light on an otherwise garbage, abysmal, trash team. I had the Packers having a losing record this year before Jordan Love's injury, and hopefully his injury makes him so he doesn't lose any time, so the Packers fans don't have constant excuses to use all year long. But even if he plays, they're sure to have more whining and complaining up their sleeves than any other fan base in the entire league. Now we got to go back a little bit. Sorry about that. Number 18 is a bit of a dip for the Falcons. The offensive line might be more of a concern than anyone thought in Atlanta, or are the Steelers up to their familiar defensive ways? Either way, the debut of Kirk Cousins didn't quite go according to plan. Coming back from his injury, he looked slower than normal, and maybe Father Time is starting to work on him. He never looked comfortable in his new offense, and it makes me wonder how much time he will need to get this offense going before it starts clicking. At 17, the Bengals had a larger drop than any of the other teams in the ranking. Losing to the rebuilding Patriots will do that. I thought maybe the preseason wasn't indicative of the Bengals because they didn't put the first team offense out a lot, but the season didn't do anything to make me feel any better about the Bengals, that they're a team worth competing for one of the toughest divisions. Joe Burrow started 3 straight series of the game with 3 and outs and didn't get his first down until 5 minutes into the second quarter. Even then, the offense looked clunky and just off. Putting up 10 points isn't going to win you many games, but we've seen the Bengals do this before. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow whether he can put up points. It's just if they fall in too deep of a hole to start the season to compete in one of the toughest divisions. The Browns probably deserve to be lower than 16, but unlike the Bengals, they actually played a formidable opponent. Maybe Deshaun Watson will never live up to the hype that he was traded for, but if they want any shot of competing against top-tier teams, he's got to be better than what he put up against the Cowboys. He looked flat all day. The Browns were only 2 of 15 on third down and averaged only 3.3 yards per play. It wasn't a good start to the season for the Brownies. Rounding out the non-playoff teams was the New York Jets. I had concerns about the Jets going into the season, that the hype was way too much for them, that they haven't put anything out there to warrant that yet. Monday's game proved that accurate. To be fair, they had to go across the country and face one of the best teams in the league, but they did little to show that they can compete, let alone beat top-tier teams in the league. Rodgers looked a little bit rusty, but did show flashes of his typical big-time playability on a free play touchdown to Wilson for the first Jets touchdown of his career. The potential is definitely there with the Jets, but until they prove they deserve to be a playoff team, I can't rank them with the playoff teams. Moving into the top 14, my playoff teams, I have the Buccaneers moving in and holding down the 7th NFC spot for me in the rankings. Baker Mayfield just flat out looked comfortable under center with the Bucs. I worried the changes in Tampa Bay might have made a negative result, but Baker Mayfield looked like he just signed an extremely valued contract for them. He looked really good starting 2024, leading the Bucs to 5 consecutive scoring drives to start the game and 4 touchdown passes on the day. The defense added to it, and the Bucs team looks like they could easily win the NFC South and keep climbing the rankings throughout the year. All right, at number 13, I've got the Colts. I had an entertaining rematch of Week 18's game determined the division last year, and although the Colts couldn't pull the upset off, I was really excited for that game last week. They built up a fight this year and give the Texans a run for their money. I think it's going to be fun to watch that division. Anthony Richardson had probably the most dazzling touchdown throw in Week 1, but was too inconsistent to overcome high-powered Texans. Mistakes in the passing and running game got Indy behind, and it was just too much to overcome when they tried to play from behind. The Colts continue to put out a strong defensive front, but they have to find some answers in the secondary if they want to shut down quarterbacks as good as CJ Stroud. After the defensive showing of Week 1, the Steelers jumped the Bengals to take the AFC playoff position. Justin Fields didn't do much more than manage the game for the Steelers. His passing across the middle of the field is still something to wonder if he's been completely broken after being one of the best in college at it. But his ability to extend plays and his experiences coming into play, he seems more like a game manager. And he was able to get out of trouble, his ability to get out of trouble continues to be what makes him special. I don't know if he did enough to maintain the starting job when Russell Wilson's healthy, but he definitely didn't lose the job after being one of the most effective quarterbacks in Week 1. The defense should continue to lead the Steelers, and with the defensive that they have, they might be enough to give the Ravens a run for the AFC North. The Bears are another team at number 11 that showed how valuable a stacked defense can be. The Bears came from behind 17 points to beat the Titans 24-17 after the defense did all the heavy lifting. A blocked punt for a touchdown, a pick six by Tyreek Stevenson, and 3 field goal kicks from Cairo Santos were enough for the Bears to seal the win after holding the Titans scoreless in the second half. Better days lay ahead for generational talent quarterback Caleb Williams. He had to play game manager more than hero in his first start, but the Bears really only needed him not to turn the ball over, and he did exactly that. While the defense racked pressure up on almost 50% of Will Levis's dropbacks, Andrew Billings, DeMarcus Walker, and newly added Darrell Taylor each had 5 pressures and made Will Levis uncomfortable all game long. Add to that 2 of the best cornerbacks in the league, and any team is going to struggle to score against the Bears defense that's reminiscent of the infamous 85 Bears squad. The Rams kick off the top 10, and although they started the season with a loss, it was a really good game against the NFC's favorites to make it to the Super Bowl facing the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford struggled a bit to start the game, but he was looking really good in the second half after he found his groove. The Rams did lose Puka Nacua for a few weeks, at minimum with an injury, but they seem high-powered on offense enough to be able to overcome it. The game had everyone convinced the Rams could knock the Lions off, and if they got the ball first in overtime, they just might have. Instead, they didn't get a shot. Jared Verse looked like their first-round pick edge is paying off already with 6 pressures in his rookie debut, and the Rams don't seem like they're going anywhere anytime soon. They should be competing all year in the NFC West. At number 9, the Dolphins didn't put up quite the offensive blowout we're getting accustomed to seeing from them, but they did enough to get the job done in Week 1. Tyreek Hill had a crazy morning after thumbing his nose to the police and getting thrown to the ground for it, but decided to take all that aggression out on the field by flipping the momentum of the Dolphins with a speedy 80-yard touchdown catch. Tua looked off and out of rhythm. They turned the ball over twice in their first 4 possessions, but those are things I expect with one of the most high-powered offenses will get cleaned up. Ultimately, the fast-flying Finns were able to overcome the mistakes to come back and win, and I only expect them to improve from here. Number 8 has the Texans leading the game against the Colts with more to prove than they should have to after last week. CJ Stroud wasn't quite up to speed in his new year, looked flat to me, but Joe Mixon on the new squad was more than willing to carry the load while Stroud gets back into speed. 159 yards on 30 carries is enough for any team to get the run game established and to put the Texans ahead without having to look back. I can't read the defense yet on this team, and they gave up a lot of big plays to that Colts offense. With the Bears coming to town next week in Week 2, they need to clean it up, or they might just be what rookie quarterback Caleb Williams needs to face to get comfortable in the NFL. Stroud and the offense and the defense both need to work hard to make some adjustments before Week 2, or they might be stepping back a few spots in the rankings. The Cowboys at 7 showed why I was accurate not to take a popular path and rank them lower. Their defense continues to lead the way, pushing relentless pressure off the snap. They had an amazing 25 total pressures in this game. That's ridiculous. The Cowboys finished with 2 interceptions and 6 sacks and led the game from start to finish because of such a dominant defensive showing. The offense did their part, but I continue to tune in when Brandon Aubrey kicks the ball because I am convinced that this will be the first kicker to ever kick a 70-yarder. The Cowboys could have let him attempt a 71-yarder, but the coaches had to go play it classy and not run up the score. Screw them. I want to see a 70-yard field goal, and I think Aubrey will be the one to do it. At number 6, the Bills come from behind victory might be just what was needed to build momentum for this team. After losing some major weapons on offense, Josh Allen spread the wealth to 10 different receivers and created a very balanced approach on offense. He had 2 rushing touchdowns to go along with 2 passing touchdowns and showed why he's an early candidate for MVP honors. He recorded his 4th such game where he had multiple rushing and passing touchdowns, which tied Hall of Famer Steve Young for the most games doing so of all time. Number 5, the Lions did just enough to stave off the pesky Rams. But it took overtime to do so. The first overtime win for the Lions since 2016, and they looked really good ending the game very dominantly. After allowing the Rams to hang around, the Lions put the hammer down in overtime and didn't give the Rams a chance to touch the ball. The line on both sides of the ball were as advertised for the Lions, with Aiden Hutchinson making big plays in key moments. But what really emerged was Jameson Williams establishing himself as a second option, solid behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. With solid receiving options and Montgomery-Gibbs combo this year, the Lions should be a contender for the best record in the NFC. At number 4, the Eagles had anything but a clean game against the lackluster Packers, but they did enough after traveling across the globe to play in poor field conditions. The Eagles tried to do everything they could to hand the game to the Packers without the Packers doing anything to earn it, but luckily the Eagles were facing the NFC North's bottom dweller garbage team. They'll need a better offensive showing next week to stay at the top of the rankings, but luckily they drew the Packers week 1 to get off to an easy 1-0 start to build momentum moving forward. Despite losing, the Ravens hold down the number 3 spot after a quality game against the reigning Super Bowl champion Chiefs. The Ravens were literally one toe away from at least tying the game and taking it to overtime, but have to settle for a loss and hope for a playoff revenge game again. Isaiah likely showed up in a big way, showing that the Ravens might be the true test for any team on offense and defense. Lamar Jackson didn't debut with the cleanest of games, but kept the team in it to the very last second. Anyone wanting to watch quality football should hope for a rematch between the Ravens and the Chiefs in the future. Number 2 has the Niners there for a second week in a row. One might think that Christian McCaffrey going down would hinder things for the Niners, but they'll just have to throw an undrafted rookie in there to make him look like an all-pro. Jordan Mason went for 147 yards on 28 carries. Brock Purdy is more than capable of managing a game with that much help, but still had more help with Jake Moody putting in a perfect 6-for-6 field goals through the uprights. The Niners made it look easy on both offense and defense and walked away with an easy win against an overhyped Jets squad. Holding down and keeping number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs came out more revved and raring than last year, and new offensive speedster Xavier Worthy was a man on a debut that was electric. 2 touchdowns while showing off his speed had everyone in the stands and at home dazzled, with Chris Jones causing constant disruptions on defense and the offense continuing to be led by Pat Mahomes. It doesn't appear anyone is standing in the way of the Chiefs' three-peat at this point. All right, that's week 2's NFL Power Rankings. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Let me know which rankings I got wrong. You guys are pretty good at letting me know. I do appreciate it. I like interacting with you guys. New videos out each Tuesday for Power Rankings. Each Wednesday is the weekly predictions. With that, thanks for tuning in. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you don't mind, and we'll see you next week.